So I'm here today on sacred ground. That's what the Squamish Nation calls this. It's their sacred ground. Their longhouse is not very far over here. I'm going down to talk to Indigenous Elder Joe Fossella, who runs the Warriors Against Violence program. It's a sweat grounds down there. We're going to go down to talk to him on his sacred space about fighting against violence, about why warriors are needed in society. And we're going to talk to him about how to make changes, something that's really important for people coming out of prison. Come on, let's go meet Joe. There's no name for what's happening down here other than a sweat and a brotherhood and a spirituality that's happening down here. Joe has been down here for, how long have you been coming here for, Joe?
Over 30 years now. And it's where I started learning about traditions and cultures and mostly Aboriginal spirituality. And I was, prior to that, only way I knew about being Indian is watching television. And I hated it. I didn't want to be identified as Native. So that was part of my shame that I carried in building up this anger that was building up inside of me. And it's... I first started with the programs. It took 6 months to do the program. And I went with it, but towards the end there, as they introduced more Aboriginal spiritual way of things of our people, I ran with that and left behind the tools I needed to continue to help me grow and get rid of more stuff in here. So I caught myself and stopped myself, and I asked the facilitators, could I do this program over again? And they said, sure, another 6 months. And there I kept my physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual balanced more so. And the first three components, physical, mental, emotional, put more thought and things into what I needed to do to keep that wheel balanced so it wouldn't feel like a flat tire every time I left something out. So it started to balance out, and I finally finished, and I was so enthused about me being able to come back as a human being the way I was meant to be, that I started telling everybody about what took place here, the lodge, the spiritual tradition, and I wasn't part of the Change of Seasons program at that time, and they kept saying, Joe, you better take some counseling skills and come and help us. And nah, I can't do that. But all the while I was spreading the word. What do you call it? The guy that spreads the word for the people? The
Preacher.
Oh. Not me.
Not preacher Joe,
no,
Elder
no,
Joe.
No. I didn't even call myself elder then. But I eventually went back to school and started doing some counseling courses, and then it wasn't quite enough. They said, you're just about there. So I ended up going to Native Ed School there on 5th and Main and did a course called Family Community Counseling. That was the one that got me going. So I worked for them for a year or two here at Change of Seasons, me and Dan Parker, and they were running short on funds, so two guys on the bottom of the pole were the first ones to go, so we got cut and we ended up in Vancouver. What do we do now? Well, let's do another program over here in Vancouver. And,
yeah.
And sure enough, we started Warriors Against Violence, and we've been going over 25 years now in Vancouver with our program Warriors. And we're, both me and Dan, we committed to our lives to doing this kind of work to help the people. He had a pipe, a secret pipe, and we came and went to lodge, and we lifted his pipe and made pledge to Creator that we'd do this work with no money. If we had no money to do it, we'd do it. If there was only one person to walk through the door, we'd work with that one person. So that's the commitment we made. And Dan's already completed his pledge. He's gone to Spirit World, and now it's just me working on me to make that journey up there with him one day soon. Not soon, but when it happens, it happens.
Don't leave us too soon, Joe.
Well,
Question. So, I it just, man, my mind is on fire with questions about that. So, this is the space right here where the program Warriors Against Violence was born.
this is a big part of it. This the Change of Seasons program with their 28 session manual and tools they had to share to help us look at to try and change our behaviors that we grew up with. Started there, and then eventually there's sessions that talk about cultural ceremonies. So that's when it led to the smudge first, and then the sweat lodge. And it came here, and I became a fire keeper for 8 years from my teachers. I took my first sweat, after my first sweat, my first sacred bath. That's immersing yourself in the water 4 times. Yeah. And then went back into the longhouse, the ceremonies they have here in the winter. I started going back there and being a helper. I was told in lodge is a good place to be, but the man out here, if there's not a man out here tending this fire, we won't have the ability to be in there without the man out here to watch over us. And that's how I became a fire keeper myself, because I'm not only doing it for the man inside, I'm doing it for myself, giving back to help somebody else make it to that point there inside the lodge. And same with the other ceremonies that we perform in our territories, and helping is a big part of it. Being inside, suffering to heat and darkness, you're praying for people that can't even walk down here from there, have to be carried in or drug in, or people that can't even leave their bed. This is who we're doing it for them, to help them with our prayers and thoughts, to help them live hopefully a stronger and better life for them. That's just why we're doing it.
That theme of giving back, that's something that you teach actively. Yes. In your program, yes. Warriors Against Violence. Tell me a little bit about that. I think I understand it a little bit, but maybe others won't. Why Warriors Against Violence? People hear warriors and right away they think violence, right? This is just more violence or more male aggression. Yeah, what's the difference there?
There's so many terms out there in today's modern way of thinking. Warrior, oh, that's a army, take everybody down guy, and
sure.
No matter who they are, you take them down. But this is not the way the Aboriginal people look at a warrior. It's an accomplishment that you do without taking lives, or just somebody needs a meat, you go hunt for them. If somebody needs wood, you go get wood for them. If they need help building a lodge, you help them build a lodge. And it could be a child, a woman, old man, old lady, that could still be deemed a warrior. There was times back in times when they had conflicts between each other's band. A warrior would go out at the halfway point of the enemies, or whoever they call them, the rivals, and he would put a stake in the ground and pound it down and tether himself off with a 12-foot cord. That would be his distance to move around, and no weapons. And he'd stand there and wait for the other side to come, and they'd make gestures like they're going to throw their spears, or maybe they threw them into the ground beside him and shooting bow and arrows or whatever. But if he flinched, they would have killed him. But he didn't flinch, so he's a good man. So when he got back to his side, people would honor him as a true warrior without violence. And here we are, hence we are.
Wow. That's a good name. And yet, I mean, you grew up in Vancouver?
Mm-hmm.
You grew up in Vancouver?
Somewhat, yes.
And yet you grew up in Vancouver? So, you've seen a lot downtown?
Yeah.
East Hastings is an area that you know well? what we call the Lower East Side of Vancouver. There were 2,000 people that died in about a 4 square block radius last year in that area from fentanyl overdoses and violence. 2,000 people. A lot of Indigenous people.
Yes.
In Canada, there's a lot of conversation and discussion about how many Indigenous people are in prison, especially federal prison. In some places, and women specifically, in some places in the prairies and in the juvenile facilities, it's 100% Indigenous population in the prisons. Why do you think there's so much over-representation of our people in Canadian prisons?
Lack of money, lack of understanding the justice system, why things are being done the way they are done to them, and no trust with the people that are supposed to be housing them, and big misunderstanding of our people not really knowing the strife that we've been through that got us in into the areas where we learn how to survive from watching other people. And this is what has been passed down for 7 generations, learned behaviors. And I was told the first European man that came here to this part of the world started in a family. An Indigenous woman had children, and for some reason he went freaky on them and started beating everybody up. And this is the way things are done by you listening to me. I'm the boss of this castle, and you must obtain the rules of the castle by me, or get out or die. And the children were watching this, what was taking place. And they probably said that, they couldn't speak or share their feelings or emotions, so they held on to it. And maybe they promised, oh, I don't want to be like him when I get big. And unfortunately, they learned the behavior. And along come residential school, more intimidation, more lack of, and your less than attitudes from the people who ran them also affected the children. So they brought those attitudes home with them when they were released from the schools and passed it on. And hence here we are, 7, 8 generations now since that first happened with our people of this land. Yeah.
So as a warrior, because you're a warrior, for sure you're a warrior, and I know you're against violence, for sure I know you, that's why we're friends. What is the path forward? What is the path forward for our people as we go through reconciliation? What is the path forward for men and women coming out of prison? Do you have some thoughts on that?
Well, like myself, I had to know that I was at my bottom. That if I don't do something now, either I'm going to die or more people are going to die around me because of me. So I knew, as you may, to hit my bottom. And there was a need in here for me to want to change. So I wanted to make this change, but I didn't know what my end result was going to be after I did my changing with the programs that helped me, and I felt so good about it. I was so enthused. I wanted everybody to do it, but I've tried. Me and Dan, over our 25 years, we've met many people who've come, stay a week or 2 or a month. I got it. Go away, and maybe a year or 2 later to come back. I should have stayed, but that was too late for them. They already got sentences or whatever the case may be for them. But it's that wanting here to want to change and want to live, because once you've get this gift of what I got from understanding about me. What took me so long? What took me so long to get to this stage in my life? Yeah. Being free and happy, and as free and happy as we can be. Even though there's many things out there that are still affecting me and other people of color, that we can't stop them from saying things to us. We can't stop them from thinking things about us. All we can do is, I don't have to prove myself here. Turn and walk, pray for those people, and that's the best we can do for. And hopefully, more and more people will hear and understand that there is still hope for self. Yeah.
So, as a teacher in the violence program, in the Warriors Against Violence program, how do you summarize for people what to do when they find themselves in a tough situation? If they want to use drugs, if they feel like they want to lash out against a family member, what sort of strategies do you teach them or encourage? I mean, you're not, I often call you a Sherpa because it's not your mountain to climb, you just walk with them, eh?
Tool we introduce the people to when they come to us is learning how to manage a timeout. And I presented this to a group of young men that came in and said, what do you think about a timeout? It's for kids. Well, okay, obviously we've missed out on something because we don't know how to do it. And so we give them guidelines on how to manage this timeout, where and when. Take an hour, cool off, and if you can, come back and finish the discussion you had prior to you going out. And if not, let's put this off to another night. Learn that we spent a good 2 hours on that, and that time out is to be shared with your partner. This is what I'm going to do when I hit that raging anger point. And some people get it right away, but some people I should have took a time out. Well, don't knock yourself. At least you thought about the timeout, which eventually will come, because changing from the survival instincts that we knew how to learning a different way, the right way that we weren't shown, it takes time to pick those new tools up and applying them into our new walk.
I like what you said. We knew how to do it when we were children. And we somehow got lost. Here we are grown men and we forget how to do a timeout, right? So with men and women coming out of prison, whether they are Indigenous or otherwise,
Yep.
You've worked with a lot of men and women. The Warriors Against Violence program is not sex specific. You work with women, you work with families. For those... Yeah.
By gender people, yeah.
Right, you're very accepting. Two-spirited, they call them. So... Let me just, you've got a lot of experience with people coming out of prison. You have many men here today that are at this sweat with you that have come out of prison. I've been in prison with some of them. What are some of the things that you see that are kind of common things? You're a Sherpa. You always tell people, watch out for that hole, don't walk in that hole. What are some common things that men and women run into when they first come out of prison that you advise them on?
I tell them who I am, where I come from, and this gift is there for you if you want to come and see more and learn more about yourself. I don't literally, oh, you're a new guy, go run after, come here, I got to talk to you and tell you about all this. When he finds out who I am and it's part of my story, that hopefully I'll build trust with him, that he can say, okay, I'd like to tell you a little bit about me, and that's opening the door. And as long as they keep opening the door, I'll keep sitting there with them. But I need to talk to you right now. You're going on fuck up. Yeah, excuse my language. Yeah.
So I was talking to Corrections Canada gave me a counselor when I first came out, and I really took it to heart because I was like you. I wanted to really change. I wanted to make progress on this side of the fence. So I really opened myself up to her, right? And one day I go into a class or a session with her, And I start telling her about a fight that me and my wife were having, an argument, you know. And it never got to a place of violence because I'm too old for that. I don't have enough energy. But I was explaining to her the fight that we were having, and she started smiling. And when I stopped telling my story, she said, "Yep, right on time." She said she had spoken to so many men and women over 15 years of being a counselor that she knew in the timeline that, oh, here comes the time for him to start to have a fight with his wife about not cleaning up the toothpaste or not putting the bathroom seat down or something. Are there some common themes?
You looking at that girl.
Oh, yeah, you were surfing porn or some stupid thing, right? So are there some common things that you see amongst men and women coming out that are kind of...
I used to be caught all the time doing things that I shouldn't be doing as a husband and hurting people and my wife and children at the same time. But the thing is, I know it was wrong, but I'd argue and I'd start hitting after a while.
Yeah.
Punching maybe more or punch a hole in the wall. But the thing is, being caught, I had to win. Even though I was effing wrong, I had to win no matter right or wrong. I had to win because I'm the boss. I'm the man of the house. So don't tell me that I was wrong. And I won all the time. But after I took the program, we'd still argue. Everyday things, but at the same time, it was a win-win situation. Now, instead of me winning every argument that was going on, it was a win-win situation. So I learned how to deal with those kind of things better in my journey.
Joe, it's been such a privilege to talk to you here today on this sacred ground with these people. These are not your students, these are your friends, these are your brothers, you call them.
Family. Your family. My brother there's family, Michael.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, how do more people get involved in Warriors Against Violence? How can the community help? How can the community help this program? Does it need volunteers?
Of course we do, but lacking the facility for bigger rooms to have multiple people in. I don't know if you've seen the office where my wife is.
Not yet.
From where my hand is to the back of that log is her office space. And it's packed with files and materials that we need to run the program. And her desk, of course, and phone. So, whatever they want to come and help us set up for, like, not this Monday, but the following Monday, we're going to have a potluck dinner. Set up tables, chairs, set up tables with the food and stuff, and help us take it down. Things like that is what we're... She hobbles like I hobble, and Blair's back is not so great either, but we're getting by. And of course, always not enough money to keep us all gainfully employed. Like when me and Dan started, we were there 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Now we're only get 8 hours a week, and that's...
I'm a person who doesn't believe that there isn't enough money. All there is in the world is money. It's funny, I came out here into the community and I looked around and all I see is money. So it's whether people believe that this is of value. And I think it's of value. Your spirituality is not my spirituality, but your spirituality is your... Exactly. And, how do people find you? Do you have a web page?
Yeah, it's called Warriors Against Violence. It's on computer. I don't know if some people are saying it's on Facebook now, but I told my wife she's got to get that off of the Facebook and on the page where other people have found us over the years. We've had people from Florida, Hawaii, and other places that are interested. We're our Warriors Against Violence program. We need it, especially during the covert times. And well, we haven't reached the ability to get that program there yet. But yeah, we need help. And all of us, every single human being that walks this earth is going to be a teacher. What do you want to show them? How to do it the right way or how to go down that wrong path? Teacher.
Joe Fossella, teacher, Sherpa, native elder on sacred land in Squamish, British Columbia. It's been a real privilege to talk to you here today, Joe. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Iridian.